Imagine a fever, but this one doesn't make you shiver or ache. It makes you dance, and you can't stop. For days, maybe even weeks, until you just collapse. This sounds like something out of a dark fairy tale, right? Well, in the summer of 1518, on the streets of Strasbourg, this was terrifyingly real. So what in the world was going on? To understand this, we have to go back in time. We're in Strasbourg, part of the Holy Roman Empire in the early 16th century. Just picture it, narrow cobblestone streets, tall, timber-framed houses leaning in on each other. This is a community living on a knife's edge, deeply faithful but also gripped by fear and dealing with incredible hardship. This is the stage for one of the strangest events in recorded history. And in the oppressive heat of that summer, something totally inexplicable started to happen. It began really quietly, with just one person, but it would soon spiral into a city-wide frenzy. Now, this dancing mania, it didn't kick off with a party or a festival. No, it started with a single, desperate, and utterly bizarre performance. On July 14th, a woman we know as Frau Trofea walked out of her house and just started to dance. There was no music, no celebration, just this frantic, non-stop dance right there in the street. And she kept going for days. So what's truly mind-boggling is how fast this thing spread. I mean, think about it. Within a single week of Frau Trofea's first steps, more than 30 other people had joined in, caught by the exact same strange compulsion. And by the end of the month, that number had exploded to around 400 people. And let's be really clear here, this was not a party. Eyewitness accounts describe people in frenzied, convulsive fits. Their arms would be thrashing, their eyes were just vacant. Their feet became swollen and bloody from the constant motion. You could hear them crying out for help, literally trapped inside their own bodies, until they finally collapsed from pure, absolute exhaustion. So, the big question is, why? Why would hundreds of people dance themselves to the breaking point? Well, the answer probably isn't a disease in the way we think of it. The answer lies in the city itself. You see, Strasbourg in 1518 was basically a pressure cooker of stress and anxiety just waiting to explode. I mean, just look at what these people were dealing with. A climate shift we now call the Little Ice Age was causing massive crop failures, which meant severe famine. On top of that, new and terrifying diseases were sweeping through Europe. Poverty was rampant, and a deep-seated superstition colored every aspect of daily life. It was the absolute perfect storm for something like this to happen. Faced with this terrifying mystery, people were desperate for answers. And the theories that came up, both back then and today, ranged from the supernatural all the way to the scientific. So let's take a look at the evidence. So back then, the official medical diagnosis was overheated blood. Yeah, but for most people on the street, this felt supernatural. They figured it was either demonic possession or, the most popular theory, a curse from Saint Vitus, who was known to punish sinners by making them dance. Fast forward to today, and we have a couple of leading theories. One is ergot poisoning, a type of mold that grows on damp rye bread and can cause hallucinations and spasms. But the theory that has the most weight is something called mass psychogenic illness, basically mass hysteria. But, you know, that poison theory has some pretty big holes in it. As historian John Waller points out, it's just really unlikely that people poisoned with ergot could have danced with that much energy for days on end. And on top of that, you wouldn't expect hundreds of people to react to a poison in the exact same specific way, by dancing. And so, that brings us to the most plausible, and maybe the most unsettling, explanation of all. The idea that the dancing plague wasn't a sickness of the body, but a sickness of the mind that then spread like wildfire through a terrified community. Mass psychogenic illness is this bizarre phenomenon where a whole group of people, usually under intense shared stress, start experiencing real physical symptoms, but there's no actual physical cause. You can think of it like a collective nervous breakdown, where the mind's suffering becomes devastatingly real in the body. So let's break down how this probably went down in Strasbourg. First, you have that immense community stress we talked about, the famine, the disease, the fear. Then you get a trigger. Frau Trofea starts dancing. Now, in a culture that genuinely believes a saint can curse you with a dancing plague, her behavior is a powerful, terrifying suggestion. Other people see her, they fear they're also cursed, and their own deep anxiety erupts into the very same physical symptoms. It spreads like a virus, but the virus is fear itself. Now, you'd hope the city authorities would have a handle on this, right?
Well, their response was, unfortunately, a perfect example of how to misunderstand a crisis and make everything so much worse.
At first, the city council decided the dancers just needed to dance it out. I'm not kidding. They actually hired musicians and built a stage in the middle of the city. This backfired spectacularly. All it did was publicly validate the behavior and encourage even more stressed out people to join in. When that made things worse, they panicked and did a complete 180, banning all music. And finally, they just gave in to the supernatural explanation and forced the dancers on a pilgrimage to a shrine to St. Vitus to beg for forgiveness. Of course, none of this worked, and the physical toll just kept climbing. Later accounts of the plague would claim a shocking number of deaths. Some sources even say that at its peak, the plague was killing up to 15 people a day from things like strokes, heart attacks, and just pure exhaustion. But, and this is a really important but, we have to be careful here. While the stories told later became more and more dramatic, the actual records from the time, notes from the city council, physician logs, they don't mention a single death. The horror and the suffering were absolutely real, but the idea of it being a mass casualty event might just be a legend that grew over the centuries. The dancing plague of 1518 did eventually fade away, but it leaves us with this really haunting question. It's a stark reminder of how fragile our minds can be under extreme pressure, and how fear, an idea, can be just as contagious as any virus. And when you look at our world today, with social media and the rapid-fire spread of information and anxiety, it really makes you wonder, are we really so different from the people of Strasbourg?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe.